was a headline that kind of came out of this that was kind of like, hey, DeepSeek duplicated OpenAI for $5 million. And everyone's told, I do not think they duplicated OpenAI for $5 million. Number two, look, I think the models that they built are fantastic. They're really, really good, but I don't think they're miracles. We can talk about why. And number three, finally, like I think the panic, and there's clearly a full-blown on panic going on over the weekend and into this morning. I think it's overblown. I think I do not think that DeepSeek is the doomsday for AI infrastructure.
For those of you for those of you out on radio, on YouTube, you can see a space shuttle behind a gentleman from MIT. I didn't even know that. I lived that, Stacy, and we were certain it worked until the heat panels didn't work in January of 1986. Yeah, do we have a certitude that this stuff is going to work for Nvidia or Microsoft or the other 14 names you follow?
I cover 10 names. Microsoft and some of the others are covered by my colleagues. Sure. I cover semiconductors. When you talk about work, like I don't understand what you mean. But the question here is, these models look really efficient, and the resources that were required to train them, look lower than what we've seen from some other models in the past. And then we can look at where they're actually pricing the stuff, and they're pricing it, and they're pricing it at levels that are quite a bit lower, where say OpenAI makes their models available if you want to go use them. And so the question is, given all of that, do you need fewer GPUs? Right? That's the big question, and fewer infrastructure build outs and everything else. And so just to talk about this, like what have they done? Right? They've got two flavors of models. They've got something called V3, which is sort of like a chat model. It uses something called a mixture of experts that makes it very efficient. And they've got a reasoning model called O1, where they used reinforcement learning and some other techniques from the V3 base model to build rivals to, say, to OpenAI's O1 reasoning model. If you look at the why they're so efficient in terms of the training that they did on, and the compute resources they used to train the V3 models, it's very efficient. They compared it to, say, like Llama 405B, and it took roughly 10% of the compute resources to train it than Meta's Llama 405B did. However, the structure of the model that makes sense. It uses something called a mixture of experts. That's the whole point. Other mixture of experts models that are out there, take anywhere from, a 6 to 1/7 as amount compute resources. This is a good one. It was like 1/10 or even better than that. But I don't think it's a miracle. And you got to remember, I'm a semiconductor analyst. Like for 50 years, costs in semiconductors got cut in half. Like for every 2 years for 50 years. That was not a bad thing for semiconductor, man. That was a good thing. We all want adoption. To get adoption, we need lower costs. This is something called Jevons paradox, right? Like increasing efficiency drives actually more demand, more net demand, not less demand. I'm a firm believer in that. I have a strong suspicion that if we can free up more compute resources, it will get used. Like I don't think we're anywhere close to the end of compute needs for artificial intelligence. And we're going to need this, just given, the costs have been going up next year, right? We need this.
Paul, jump in here, but anytime anybody quotes William Stanley Jevons on the show, they get to come back.
They get to come
Continue.
back. Stacy, what do you expect to hear from the semiconductor companies that you cover in terms of their response to this news, whether it's Nvidia or others?
Yeah, well, so we're in the middle of earnings season right now, so we'll see as they come out, right? But we forget the semiconductor companies for a minute. We've already seen like some of the other responses, and you have to remember everything that we've seen DeepSeek doing. Like I don't want to dismiss it. Like they're really good and very efficient. They're very smart engineers, but these are not things that are not known, and these are not things that the other top tier AI researchers and AI labs are not aware of and potentially already using themselves, right? And if we look at what we saw last week on top of all of this, clearly spending is going up, not down. So Meta just significantly increased their CapEx, I think, on Friday, right? We had the whole Stargate announcement, $500 billion, whatever that is. And even China a few days ago announced a 1 trillion yuan, which is about $140 billion US, sort of like sovereign AI effort, right? So clearly spending is still going up, not down.